Hey everybody, welcome to the Bro Up Bites podcast. I'm your host Mace.
And I'm your co-host Proteus.
Hey, so today we are going to be talking about some news. So, Proteus, I wanted to bring up Ubisoft. So, I mean, you've heard what's going on with Ubisoft, yeah?
Yeah, so they've been in the news a bit.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, we've talked about them previously on the show, but this one is pretty interesting because of you had the problems with Star Wars Outlaws didn't sell as well as they had hoped, and they had like a 19% downturn in their stock prices since then. So that's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, and they've had quite a bit of negativity about their upcoming release, Assassin's Creed Shadows, as well.
Oh, yeah. A lot of issues with just people not liking their approach to it. And yeah, that one is, people are already very skeptical about that one. So what's interesting is what seems to have come out of that is that the family, and I think it's the Guillemot family, or correct?
Guillemot. Or it's like
Guillemot?
Okay, the Guillemot brothers. I'm not good with French or
that's
French
right.
Canadian.
It's French. It's French. Okay, so Tencent is working with them.
Oh wow!
Or they're talking about working with them to buy out the company and make it private again.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy because I mean they did. I believe they started out private, then they went public. And they've had to deal with all of the issues that come with being a privately traded company. But yeah, it's kind of been a roller coaster for them because they had a lot of goodwill back in the day with the community, and they made very unique games. And obviously some of the biggest gaming franchises of the modern day have come from them, especially with Assassin's Creed. And I mean, recently in the last decade with The Division and Watch Dogs, and I mean, they obviously own Splinter Cell and all the Tom Clancy games. So
they're obviously a very well-known publisher. In fact, I think about, I don't remember what E3 it was, but it was one of the E3s towards the end when they stopped doing them. But they were one of the only publishers, like actual publishers, that had a keynote. It was like I think Activision had one, and then it was just the console manufacturers. So there was Xbox, and I think Sony was still going at the time. So you had like 3 main keynotes or 4 main keynotes. Nintendo had already dropped out at that point. So I mean, they are big. They're a big deal. But I don't know, man.
How do you feel about I guess Tencent basically coming in with that?
So I thought about that. So I was like, I like the idea of them going private because I find that when a business is private, they're not beholden to their shareholders. And so they're able to make better decisions. I feel that they are able to make much better decisions in terms of their creation process. So
I think I kind of agree with that, like at least from just like the outsider looking in of like, when did all of their unique franchises and like just games and their ideas of games come out? And most of the time those originated when they weren't publicly traded. So I feel like since they've been public, there's been a lot of issues or I don't know, catering to certain game mechanics or monetization. To say just a little bit about that. So.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like they have definitely become a check the boxes kind of company. This is the thing that the shareholders want because it's a popular mechanic and it can be monetized really easily.
And it just becomes so formulaic. with like their games. Like people say it's a Ubisoft game, so like, and it's like, what does that even mean? Like when you look back, it's like, what is a Ubisoft game? And it's like, well, you look towards, well, Assassin's Creed obviously was a huge impact on a lot of the mechanics that they carry over. What games did that go into? Far Cry, even parts of in the Division, in Watch Dogs is kind of almost just like a modern day version of their Assassin's Creed. And then even their more recent, like you said, the Star Wars Outlaws, a lot of people said that copied mechanics from all of the other Ubisoft style games. And then
that one's pretty interesting. Anyway, but I don't want to get too off track with that, with talking about Outlaws. I mean, because I could say some stuff about it, but no. So we were talking about how I feel about it, and I was saying, in that way, I think it's good. But another way in which I feel it is very bad is that I was looking at Tencent.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking, I know they own a lot of other publishers or developers. And so I looked up what they own. And I'm like, oh, these are all, they definitely gravitate towards these games as a service.
Yeah, a lot of mobile games.
Companies. Yeah, mobile games. I mean, tons of mobile games. But even their core games are things like they own Riot Games.
Mm-hmm.
Or they own a controlling share of Riot Games. I'm trying to remember what else. There were a few others, but yeah, they're all not gotcha games, but definitely games that are designed to go on forever. Separate you from as much money as possible for offering you as little as possible. It's. In that way, I don't think it's good, because I think that is the problem with Ubisoft, is that they do tend towards that model. So I think even if they are privately owned, they're going to continue the same sins that they've been committing already.
Yeah, and I feel like the Guillemot family is, while they may have, interest in trying to take Ubisoft back to its roots, partnering up with Tencent, I don't feel like that's the right option for them. But at the same time, I don't know if they have any other options, because I can't remember. I saw a report that said how much, or like how many shares Tencent actually had invested into, like, to take ownership of Ubisoft, since they are still public. But it was a very large amount from what I remember. I thought it was in the 40s. Like 40-something% range or something like that.
Okay, I'm sorry. How much?
Like the
Tencent
controlling
already owns?
Yes. And I mean, I guess
Tencent already owns 49%.
Oh wow! So they
on their own without the Guillemot family.
Yeah.
So I mean, they own quite a bit of it.
Yeah, that's
I'm sure they're already. I'm sure they're already like quite in control of what's going on over there. I mean, when you own that much of a company, you've got a lot of pull.
Yeah, definitely.
I just don't think that Tencent is going to be able to right the ship. I don't think that that's a good move.
Yeah, and it's sad to see.
A good move. They're the ones who are wanting to make the money. So yeah.
I don't know. Which maybe, I don't know, maybe they will operate it differently than how they do it with all their other games. But I'm very hesitant to think that they would change it, just because of how they've been operating. I don't think they'd change a lot of how they do business. So
yeah, and are they going to make good changes, or are they just going to double down on what they've been doing?
Yeah, it's like, are they finally going to release a new Splinter Cell game? It's been basically a decade now, and I'm waiting.
No, they won't. Or what they'll do is they'll release a new Splinter Cell game, and it will be another Ubisoft open world game as a service. And how terrible would that be?
Oh yeah, you'll have loot drops, and you'll have some sort of tacked on multiplayer aspect, and everything will be online connected with tracking, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, sounds
Yeah,
great.
and it's not that Splinter Cell couldn't work as an open world game. I mean,
Oh, yeah,
Metal
it
Gear
could.
Solid
If
5 was phenomenal.
Yeah, they could make it work, but I feel like they just have done so much with their other games, with like how they've morphed Far Cry and Assassin's Creed and everything into this like constantly online collectathon that just
Yeah,
tries to
exactly.
it tries to just take so much of your time constantly.
It,
So
it's
yeah,
it's a mess, to be honest. I think it's a mess.
yeah. Well,
You know
I
what?
mean
And
they're
that's the other thing that I find is interesting is did you read the announcement or the release that Ubisoft made? It was pretty recently. It might have been today. I
Mhm.
read about it today.
Wait,
So they
oh,
came out in response to the talks about this because they obviously noticed that people are talking about it. And you know what their response was?
yeah. What?
All they said is we are still committed to making open world games as a service games. Like that is
Oh,
what they are
they
focusing on.
doubled down. So they
Yeah,
said
they
they're
said
still dead.
these are
Wow.
the two pillars of our business and we fully intend to continue
Oh
down that
boy.
road.
Well,
So uh,
the best of
yeah,
luck
I
to
don't
them,
know.
because if they, I that's the thing. Like, I used to play basically all of their games. Like, I loved Prince of Persia, Assassin's Creed, a lot of the Tom Clancy games, Splinter Cell. Like, I used to
Mhm.
play them all the time, and as they have progressively gotten to that online games as a service style, I have put less time into each of their consecutive like newer games.
Yeah, and
Um,
you're not alone. I know other people who have basically said the same thing like I don't feel drawn to it. I don't feel any
mhm,
motivation to play those games anymore and I think it's not really that's the thing. Oh, so that's our generation. And then
mhm.
I think the younger generation, they're just not doing anything that's really interesting them. So they're not pulling in new players and then their older players are just getting tired of what they're doing.
Yeah. Well,
So,
we'll see how it goes. I'll keep an eye on it, but if they're doubling down on what they've been making and partnering with Tencent,
mhm.
then I don't have a lot of faith as a consumer, and a fan of a lot of their franchises. I don't know. Like, I'll keep watching from a decent distance, I think.
Yeah, okay. So I had a thought when I was thinking about this earlier today too, and that is, you know what I think they could do to improve? They
Oh,
don't
what?
need to completely give up the games as a service model,
Hmm.
right? But they don't need to make every franchise these gigantic games. And I think that's
Yeah.
kind of the problem that they're facing right now is that every game that they make, I'm guessing, costs some extreme amount of money to develop because they're
Multiple
so
hundreds of
huge, right?
millions. Yeah.
Yeah, multiple hundreds of millions probably to develop.
Well,
And
one thought on that real quick. Like, looking,
yeah.
if you started up any modern Ubisoft game, so when I last year when I was trying to play Far Cry 6, I think, I don't know, I think it's 6, yeah.
Mhm.
When you start up the game, you see so many studio logo. It's like Ubisoft Montreal, Ubisoft, what is it? They're like places in like Beijing or somewhere. I don't know. There's like all these crazy amount of studios that all worked on that game, when in the past it was a single studio, not like 10 different ones that were inputting, like making stuff for the game, which that I mean that I think that's part of it. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think that that's a big part of it. It's bloat. It's just
Yeah.
out of control bloat that's really just killing the quality of what they're putting out.
Yeah. And
So
I
I think that if they made more games like Tom Clancy, if they made a
mhm.
Tom Clancy game that is just, a reasonable 10 or fewer hours campaign with a decent multiplayer aspect or something like that,
Yeah.
I think that would sell well, and it would cost so much less to produce.
Hmm.
And they
I
could
agree.
have several things. And that is the thing. That I think is the biggest issue with Ubisoft, is that their portfolio is so narrow. They
Hmm.
just make the same game over and over again. And so they're shooting themselves in the foot because they're creating products that compete with their own products.
Yeah, because the same, like Assassin's Creed is Far Cry, is Watch Dogs, is Avatar, whatever that Avatar game was, is
Yeah.
the Star Wars Outlaws. Like they're all merged together. Whereas used to be, yeah, Splinter Cell, stealth action game. Guess what? Assassin's Creed, open world stealth action game, but slightly different. Rayman, platformers, Prince of
Platformer,
Persia,
yeah.
different type of action platformer. They
3D
had,
action platform. I
yeah,
mean, they had 3D
Rainbow
Rayman
Six
games, yeah.
shooters. They had a broader portfolio where everything wasn't just merged together. And
It certainly was more
yeah,
interesting back in the day.
yeah.
I really
So, well,
appreciated the older Ubisoft
yeah, and
a lot
I wish
more.
them the best. I hope they come to their senses, and I hope that consumers speak with their wallets. And
Uh-huh.
it seems like that's happening. It really does. I'm very surprised and kind of pleasantly surprised over the last couple years, especially the last like 2 years, that people seem to have been pushing back and saying, "No, I am not buying this reskin of a game for the like fifth time in a row." Like it
Yeah,
seems like it's
exactly.
working. So
Okay. So, I mean, I think that's
yeah,
enough on Ubisoft.
yeah,
I'll stop beating them up now. Um,
uh,
I have another thing I want to talk about.
yeah, sure.
So, in a previous segment, I talked about a game that I was really amped up for. I was really excited about it, and that
Hmm.
is Until Dawn.
Yeah, yeah. I knew that one was in your wheelhouse. I previously have played it back on PlayStation 4. So
Yep. And how was it received?
back then, I mean, it was kind of a big deal. Like that was I'm blanking on the studio.
Super
Super
massive.
massive. You're
Super
not super
massive.
giant. Super massive.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was like their like breakout game that really became a big deal. You know, great
It's
graphics,
what
cool in
put them on
there.
the map. It's the reason why
Yeah,
they're around today.
yeah, that's why they're still making games that are very similar to that
Mm-hmm.
so far. And like it kind of has their formula. It's you're basically playing as a character in a horror movie or multiple characters in a horror
Multiple K,
movie.
yeah.
Yeah, and you get to see the cause and effect and like what happens if you make a choice,
Yep.
and if you replay
It's
it,
a choices matter
yeah,
genre.
yeah, it's
Like
like
that's what they do.
choose your own adventure, like the old books they used to have. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yeah. And so the original was received really well. This new one came out, and the news is that it undersold Concord. Concord,
ouch. Yeah,
which
that's
weren't we just talking recently about how that might have been the biggest flop, the biggest AAA flop in history?
yeah. It's been well. After this story, I'll we can bounce off of that. We have some follow up to that, but yes, so far one of the potentially biggest flops in history. But yeah, Until Dawn, so
Yeah.
less players than Concord, and Concord was a couple thousand at most.
Yeah.
Oh
It was
man,
so few. Okay, so I looked up this game on Steam DB.
yeah. Well, what did it look like?
It peaked at less than 2,500 players on Steam DB.
Oh wow, yeah,
I,
that's
I
bad.
mean, on release day, there were less than
Well,
2,500 people playing it.
yeah.
And I was looking, you know what made me look it up is that I was looking at the reviews. It got mixed
Hmm.
reviews as soon as it released. So I wasn't
Oh
surprised that it was flopping because
yeah,
even the people who did buy into it weren't really enjoying it.
yeah. Did it have a lot of technical problems?
It had a lot of technical problems. My understanding
Ouch.
is it performs extremely poorly. Lots of crashes, lots of bugs. And then there were things that they did. There were even some people who are like, I don't like how they reframed things, and I think they
Wait,
changed.
they actually reframe like scenes and stuff, because it was set up specifically like a movie with like specific shots. So
Yeah.
they changed how it actually looked.
I think most of like the framing and everything is practically identical, but they
Okay.
did some reshading action on it.
Mm.
So like the way that the games are shaded is different, and then there are minor changes. And then I think they changed something about a certain character. I don't know because I didn't want to spoil a game for me. So because I did buy it and I'm still going to play it. Okay,
Yeah.
so
Oh man. Did they?
uh
I'm curious. Well, you can tell me once you play it. I'm curious because
huh.
there were several actors, like big name actors, that took part in the
They're still in it.
Okay, I didn't know
Yeah,
if
they're
maybe
still
they
in it.
lost the rights to or likenesses of like one of the actors or anything. So
Yeah, well, I wonder if they hired them again
hmm.
because it looks like they redid some of the mocap and stuff. So I
Oh,
don't know.
okay.
I don't know. I would have to look it up. I'd be
Yeah,
surprised if they didn't re-record the lines because I feel like the quality wouldn't fit right. I don't know. I
yeah.
don't know.
Well, yeah. I'm curious to hear your feedback once you actually play it, because I know you already you pre-ordered it, right?
Uh-huh, I did pre-order it.
Yeah,
See? What it's the worst
yeah,
mistake. Just don't pre-order games because every time I do, not every time, but usually when I do, I'm like, oh, I guess I could have waited
yeah.
for that. In fact, I
Well,
am
so
waiting. I am waiting to play it because I
yeah,
don't want to play it while
until
it's broken.
yeah. So besides the technical problems, what else do you think went wrong with this launch?
Okay, so I have thought about this a lot, and this is something that people didn't. I've seen a couple people mention this online, but this is my biggest thing. Think about the kind of game it is.
Hmm.
It is 100% story driven. And
Yeah.
it's a horror game. So not knowing the outcome is important. Well, anybody who's interested in that game has already experienced it. So why do they need to experience it again for $60?
Yeah, that's kind of crazy. And I know it's on PC obviously, and it was on PS5. Do you know if they added like a upgrade patch or something for PS4 owners of the game? Is that a thing?
Uh, you mean for the people who had the original?
Yes, or is it's a
I don't
completely
know if they ever
separate
did an
game?
enhanced version. Oh,
Okay.
this is a completely separate game. It's
Uh,
it's different.
yeah,
They didn't
I was
they
wondering
didn't
if they
give it
had
to
like an upgrade
anybody who
path.
owned it. No, no,
Okay,
no.
okay, okay.
No. It's a so because it wasn't developed by Supermassive, it was developed by
Oh, okay.
Ballistic Moon.
So they basically ported slash remastered it for PS5 and PC.
Yeah. And
Okay.
that was
Well.
the thing too that was kind of weird about it was that they talked about it like it was a remaster, but also talked about it like it was a remake.
Yeah.
I think it was more of a remaster with a few
Hmm.
minor tweaks, but you could call it a remake because it was rebuilt in a new engine. I think that's a cop
Oh.
out though. That's just a remaster
Yeah.
that is more involved.
Yeah.
Unless you're adding features that didn't exist before, it's still just a remaster.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of sad to hear about all the technical issues, and I just feel
And
like,
the failure of it cuz I think I don't know. I like
like,
those kinds of games and I don't like to see them fail.
yeah.
And I understand it not selling well on PlayStation, but I wish it would have done
Hmm.
better on
On
PC.
PC. Yeah.
And it brings up another thing for me, and that is that PlayStation has had a lot of failures on PC recently.
Yeah, they have been going one after the other, and like I mentioned in our prior episode, I am kind of concerned about Sony and like what their, I don't know, their strategy that or lack thereof is, like with
Yeah,
all of
it's
their
just kind
games,
of
their franchises,
confusing.
like what their future is, because I thought it was really cool when they announced that they would start launching games on PC. I mean, they obviously ported their biggest ones like Spider-Man and Ratchet
Yeah.
and Clank and God of War,
Yep.
and now Until Dawn, and then they were day and date with Helldivers 2 and Until Dawn. It's just I I don't know. I feel like they're kind of lost. Like they became very successful very fast in the PS4 generation and have been just kind of
Mm-hmm.
riding that wave. And I don't know. Like it seems
And
like they have just not been listening either because like Until Dawn, that's another PC flop right after Concord, right after having a great hit with what was it, Helldivers, and then screwing that up.
then squandering it.
Yes, like that, and then also was it God of War Ragnarok that came out what last month
Oh
or
yeah,
month
that one
before?
performed really poorly too.
Yes, because people were kind of, from what I could understand, they were kind of protesting it because they didn't want the PlayStation sign-on stuff like
It's
Helldivers
the
added.
PSN stuff.
Which
It's the
whatever,
PSN stuff.
yeah, that's something, but I don't know what
That's
is going
something else,
on.
and we'll bring that up later. I want to
Yeah,
talk about that with our next story.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, it's kind of weird, to be honest. I think that there is a market for those games on
hmm,
PC, and it's just kind of weird that they haven't been able to maintain the success that they had. Because Spider-Man, when that released on PC,
yeah.
they sold that thing like hotcakes. It
Oh
sold
yeah, it did
extremely
really
well on
well, and
PC.
even I think Ratchet and Clank did really well too, just because people were glad of like a very exclusive, Sony
Yes.
franchise like
Yeah.
going that hadn't been there ever, and even the original God of War, and I think Horizon Zero Dawn when it launched, it
Mm-hmm.
sold very well too. But the thing is, well, there's stuff on that too, like some of their stuff that they're doing with that game.
Yep.
Yeah, they are making some very odd choices, and I cannot figure out how they are not reading the market or reading their consumers. That they're
Yes.
not taking this feedback and saying, maybe we shouldn't do that, because I feel like they used to be really good about that.
Yeah,
That's what
they
made them
did.
successful during the PS4 gen, is that they were watching how bad Microsoft was doing that. Like Microsoft was doing these things and making terrible mistakes for their consumers, and they were like, "Hey, let's not do that." And now I feel like they became successful like Microsoft did in the 360 gen, and now they're just doing the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. It's
uh,
interesting that they got to where they are today because they were being more pro consumer
mm-hmm.
than their competition.
Yeah,
And now they're in this mess because they're being less pro consumer.
anti-consumer. Yeah.
But what's really interesting to me though is that everybody loves to hate on Xbox right now, but
Yeah.
I'm like, at least Xbox is trying to do things that make sense for the consumer.
Yeah,
Do you
they
know what I
really just
mean?
want people to play like be able to play games wherever, whether it's on Xbox,
Mm-hmm.
PlayStation. I mean, with Hi-Fi Rush, like the original one being ported, with Minecraft on every possible system that there is. Like they are, and Call of Duty as well. Like they're just, Microsoft's like, just play our games like on whatever you have.
Yep.
So
And I think they're
uh,
hurting themselves. We've talked about that.
yeah,
Obviously, they're hurting themselves because trying they're just trying to win the customers with that, but they're not thinking about their competition and how they're setting themselves apart from the competition.
yeah, that's
Um,
true. That's fair. So
yeah. Anyway, so I kind of want to tie this into a couple things here because
yeah,
one, we'll be doing our segment on upcoming games that we're excited for or upcoming games that we are interested in, right?
yeah,
And
sure.
then also we want to talk about our other story for this episode, and that has to do with Steam. So I'm going to tie all this stuff together. So first off, Steam recently
Yeah.
made a change to the way you purchase games. It's not actually a change. Everything is the same. It just kind of sheds a bigger light on something that we
Yeah.
already knew. And
Mm-hmm.
that is that now, because of a law that passed in California that has to
Yes.
do with when you're buying digital content, where it's actually you're buying a license to use it, they
Mm-hmm.
make it so that you have to obviously state this. You can't just say you're buying the game and then in the fine print somewhere it's like, well, you're not
Yeah,
actually
it's
buying
like
it, you're just
actually
buying a
you don't
license.
own. Yeah, you're just buying a
So now,
license, which yeah.
yeah, exactly. So now there is a pop-up as you're about to check out that says
Really?
that you're buying a license.
Oh, well, they
And
are
so a
very
lot of,
fast in that.
yeah, I mean, they got to get ahead of it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and that's fine. That doesn't bother me because I knew this all along. But what's interesting about it is that it has kind of reignited this conversation about, hey, you know, when you buy digital content,
You don't
it's not
actually own
actually
it.
yours. But what's
Yeah.
interesting to me is that everybody's kind of known this all along and been okay with it, and or just kind of been like, oh, that's the way it is, so whatever.
Yeah, and they've kind of
And
accepted it. It's
yeah,
yeah, it's something.
yeah, exactly. Well, and that at this point, there's no choice, right? But
Yeah,
what I
you
think is
you don't want to play a game
interesting,
or well, oh, sorry. Yeah, what were you saying?
what I was just gonna say is, I feel like that kind of relates to the PlayStation thing, right? So people are like, oh, I don't want to have PSN. Well, you don't want to have PSN, but you deal with always on DRM for Steam.
Yeah,
You buy your
it's
games in Steam. I mean, you have to do DRM. You have to have a Steam
and
account to do it. And then there are
yeah.
countless other, I mean, not countless. You could probably count them very easily, but there are
Hmm.
other publishers that also require you to sign in. EA is an example.
EA,
Um,
Ubisoft. How about BattleNet? You know, every Blizzard game ever.
absolutely.
Even Call of Duty, you've for years you've had to sign into your Call of Duty account
Yes. And I
to play
do
those, and it's like,
understand
yeah,
I do understand the distinction where people are saying, but it's a single player game. I shouldn't have to. Well, you do still
yeah,
have to use DRM. Um,
yeah.
Now, this is going to sound like I'm supporting this practice and that I'm like like I'm a bootlicker or something. I'm not. I would
Uh,
love to not have DRM. I just think that protesting PlayStation for doing something that everybody else is doing is kind of interesting. Like if you're going to do that, then you need to start, you know, getting onto the other
yeah,
guys
well,
too.
yeah, I think consumers should have been pushing back for the last several decades
Yeah,
because this has
exactly.
been
Yeah,
going like it's
you've
been
got a
getting
point.
progressively worse, and we've just put up with it, and people have allowed it to happen, and so I like it's one of those things. It's like, yeah, it's not great. I don't really like that. I don't like that you're having to do like a server check when you log into a game. That was
Yeah.
something that back when Xbox One was launching, that was the whole thing that Sony like they were they were like, oh well, Microsoft said they're gonna do it. When you put in a disc, a physical disc, it was gonna do a license check to a server before you could play that disc.
Which doesn't make sense to me,
Yeah.
especially since I feel like a lot of more modern games that couldn't fit on a disc,
Mm-hmm.
it was like the disc was your, like, that was
Right.
authenticating that you own the game and the right to play it.
Yeah, it's kind of like, okay, well, yeah, I don't know why that was the thing, which they did. I think they stepped back from that after the backlash, but
Yeah.
um, Sony didn't do that with their discs, but now they're starting to have the PSN requirement. But all that to say is that as an industry, like as consumers in the industry, like we've put up with it and allowed it to happen, and so I don't like it's a feature that we don't like. It's not great, and I wish it wasn't there because it hurts when you try to play a game and it tries to do a server check and the servers don't exist in however many years. Um,
Exactly. And that is a
yeah,
big issue with it too. Why did we lose the crew?
Yeah.
Why did we lose the crew? Because they don't want to maintain the servers that check to see if you actually own it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, I don't know, it's something that we should have been pushing back on more over the years. But yeah, it's,
Well, okay.
yeah.
And there was something I wanted to kind of tie that into as well. Oh yeah, actually it has to do with the PlayStation thing and how I also kind of am on the side of people who are boycotting it.
Mm-hmm.
And that because like what we were saying with digital, right? So the digital stuff, everybody wanted to just have their games now. They didn't want to have to deal with going to the store to get the physical disc, or maybe it was, there are more sales on CD keys. Obviously, the digital stuff you can get at a discount more often because there's no physical media that they're trying to recoup cost from. Anyway, so we didn't push back on that. And now we're too deep. It doesn't matter how much you push back now. They're never going back.
Yeah, we allowed it for too long. It's like we were saying, I think our last episode, I was talking about the horse armor. And it's like, you complain about DLC, and guess what? What happened? You didn't push back enough. So here we are. This is gaming in 2024. Yeah. So
yep. And so in that way, I'm also like, okay, if you don't want that so bad, if that matters to you, then yes, stick up for what you feel is right and wrong.
Yeah,
and don't buy a game if they're doing something that you don't want them to. I really worry that PlayStation or Sony is going to have the wrong reaction to it.
Yeah.
I mean, here is the thing that bugs me about it is that there's such an obvious choice here. Stop requiring PSN for single player games. Just stop doing it.
It just doesn't. Yeah, I don't know why they're doing it unless internally there may be some performance metrics that they may have corporately initiated that they need to track playtime or engagement, and that is one of the ways they can do it is if they have that PlayStation Network connection, which I feel like that's probably part of it. I don't think they'll outright say that, but
couldn't they get a lot of that data from Steam's APIs though? They're pretty open about that data.
Yeah, but I think there's stuff like within the PlayStation Network that's another layer, like another layer deep, and it goes back to stuff with like Ubisoft. Everything's designed by committee, designed by what the shareholders want. So when you're just wanting these metrics, you want to know like the telemetry data of your customer, like what is engaging them, how long are they sticking in this part of the game. So like it's stuff like that, and maybe it isn't, maybe it's not there, maybe I'm just overthinking it, but I feel like from all that I've heard about how these companies operate, that is a big deal to them. And so that's probably why they're doing it, and it's not unique just to Sony, obviously.
No,
but
it's not unique to them at all.
Yeah, it's terrible for consumers to have to be always online or have a check for your game. But okay, like you said, boycott it. Don't buy the game. Go to GOG.com. Only buy games there if you want. And maybe you'll be happy.
Came out when they made that statement or when they made that change on Steam. GOG took that as an opportunity to make a crap post about Steam. I mean, they didn't call Steam out, but they basically said,
they kind of did.
Look, you will always be able to install your games that you buy with us.
Yeah.
And I love that.
Yeah, it's great.
So that was one other thing that I wanted to talk about here, right? Is that, do you feel like because you own most of your PC games on Steam? I do. I barely.
Yeah, for the most part.
I may own like one or two things on GOG.
I own quite a bit on GOG. I've been a avid supporter from the beginning, but they've also released all these really old games like that I used to play on PC that I used to have some discs for, and a lot of times they give away like some of those really old games, which is pretty cool for giveaway. So I've always claimed those. There was a time they let you link up your Steam account and they would copy over that I don't think I don't know if they still do that, but when they first launched their GOG Galaxy launcher, they let
Yeah.
you link it and you could get free GOG copies of some of your Steam games, which was kind of cool.
Really? I didn't know that was a
Yeah.
thing. I
Yeah, I
knew
don't
that
think they do it. Yeah,
the
anymore.
Galaxy launcher I know will actually like put all of your games from all of your different launchers in one place, which is cool.
Mhm.
It's just too bad the UI is not that great. And
Yeah,
I think
it's
that's the other
something.
thing, right? Is that for me, I prefer to buy games on Steam.
Yeah,
And
I do
does
too.
that make
It's
sense? Hmm. With me feeling the way that I do about this whole situation, or the situation in general, how it's been over the years, it's interesting because I've decided already, or at least I've shown that I've decided with the way that I spend my money, and that is I like the features of Steam and I'm willing to deal with that shortcoming in order to have those features, because that is the thing too, is that
mhm.
GOG is a very bare bones experience, right? You don't
It
have the
is.
social
Yeah.
element. You do not have the achievements. You don't have the, I mean, if you're into
Well, you do have
the
achievement. You
cards
actually do
aren't
have
there.
achievements now, so
Oh,
I'd say.
did they add that?
Yeah, they have it on certain
Okay.
games. Yeah,
I mean,
so
even Epic used to not have it, and now they finally do.
yeah.
Um, which I think
But
is
yeah, I get
just
what you're saying.
crazy.
Like all the
It-
features of Steam, like that you own a Steam Deck, right? So like
yeah,
you
I
have
own a Steam
that.
Deck.
Like it's all this stuff integrated. All your friends play on Steam. You can link everything up, and it's just a very at this point seamless. Like it didn't always.
You
It
know what's the
wasn't
biggest
always.
value too of Steam is Steam Cloud.
Oh
The
yes.
fact that you get all of your
Uh.
saves backed up to the cloud, and it used to be not all games, but now pretty much all of your games get their saves backed
uh.
up to the cloud.
Not all games.
No, it's
I
not
found one.
all. That's
I
why I
was gonna
said
say one of my recent purchases
pretty
does
much
not.
all.
So,
Actually, it's interesting. You know what's a
uh,
game that I played recently that did not back up properly?
which one?
The Casting of Frank Stone.
Really? That is
Yeah, I thought
surprising
that
from
was
such a big
shocking
studio.
because I was like, "Oh, wow, that sucks. I can't uninstall that one now because I don't want to have to start over on doing the cutting room floor. Like I
Oh,
have to
wow.
finish it on this one PC."
Hmm.
I think it's supposed to work though cuz it does upload the save to the cloud,
Oh, wow.
but then it's just not
Uh,
pulling it down properly on the other side. So I think that's a developer issue and not a Steam issue.
yeah, the game I mentioned a game I was playing recent, like in our last episode, and it's an indie developed game, and it doesn't list Steam Cloud saves as a feature, which I didn't catch until I tried to play it on my Steam Deck. So.
That's unfortunate.
But yeah, so anyways, but Steam also has been honestly they've been pretty consumer friendly and like open about stuff, which I do like, and I
Yes.
hope they stay that way. Like last week they removed the I think the anti was it like the arbitration clause that they had that where like if you agreed to stuff
Yes,
you
they
couldn't
did.
do Steam or whatever, and now you can. So I thought that was really pro consumer. Pretty
I
cool.
think in general, they tend to be one of the most pro consumer. If you're talking about what I consider the big three, I don't consider Nintendo one of the big three because they have always been their own thing.
Yeah, they're Nintendo.
I mean, if you do include them though, you include them big four. Okay. So we've got
Yeah.
Steam, we've got Microsoft Store, we've got the PlayStation Store, and we've got Nintendo, right? So if you take all of those and you say which one of these is actually pro consumer, you can only say that about one of them, and it's Steam.
Steam, yeah.
Because all of the others have done a lot of things where it's very clear that they do not care about you. They care about your money, and they don't
Hmm.
care
And
about
they
maintaining your
don't,
trust even.
yeah, and game preservation is not one of them, especially if you're Nintendo.
Yes,
So,
exactly.
uh,
So I think Steam has shown over the years that they are more willing to listen to their consumers and to give people what they are asking for. I
yeah.
mean, just look at the Steam Deck. Look at who makes hardware and says, "Oh, you bought it. Do what you want with it."
Yeah, like mod it, upgrade it.
Yeah, they
Just,
encouraged it. They
uh,
encouraged you to do what you want with it.
yeah.
I mean, that one when I saw the press release about, well, you watched it, right? The interview with the developers of the Steam Deck. When I
Yeah, the
watched
one,
that, I was
pretty
like,
long
oh
one.
man,
Yeah.
Steam actually cares about their consumers.
Yeah.
Or I mean, it is a business. They are trying to make money, but they at least recognize that they succeed through supporting the people that are giving them money, that are paying their
Yeah.
bills.
No, yeah, and I appreciate that. And they have been very open about basically everything. When people ask them questions, like even like there's a reason people have so much or they revere Gabe Newell is because like he's been like as the leader of the company,
Lord
like he's been
Gaben.
very open and he's been very responsive and he always communicates when he has a chance, like with fans and the community. So and
Yes.
even the people that work just on all the teams, like you said, the Steam Deck stuff, like that was the most open that I think any of the big hardware manufacturers have been about a system of like showing everything and
Yes,
like talking
exactly.
about it and like you said, telling people that they can do what they want with it. Install, they're like, I don't care. You install Windows on it if you want to, but you know.
Yeah, you can swap out the SSD. You can uh yeah, it's just great.
It's
I,
cool.
I
So
really appreciated that. Anyway, so
yeah,
let's talk about games.
yeah, I'm sure.
No, tell me what you got on the radar.
Oh, on upcoming games.
Yeah, tell me about upcoming games you got
Well,
on the
we're already
radar.
like we're into October. There is, a big game called Call of Duty. I don't know if you've heard of that one. Black Ops
Yeah.
6. That one's coming
Yes.
out.
Are
I'm
you interested in
curious.
that? Are you a COD guy?
I used to be. I mean, Black Ops
No,
was
I
my
mean, who
favorite.
didn't?
Like it was my favorite version of COD. Honestly, like I loved Black Ops 1 and 2.
MW2.
That. Oh, you didn't play 2? 2 was
No, I
awesome.
said
So,
MW2.
oh,
Modern Warfare.
Modern Warfare.
That
Oh,
was
Modern Warfare
that
2.
was mine. I actually, Black Ops 2 came out and I was like, I hate this. This is stupid.
Yeah, and
Now
I
I
mean, I
understand that.
liked it.
I think that was just because I was so used to Modern Warfare 2 that
Hmm.
it was jarring. But anyway, go
Yeah,
ahead.
well, it's arcadey. I mean, I love jumping in, but I will say, so I did try the beta several weeks ago or a month ago. I can't remember. It's been a while,
Okay.
and I don't know. Like I had some high hopes for it. I was like, oh, maybe it's going back. Like Black Ops was always arcadier, had like some fun, mechanics with how their
Sure.
loadout points worked and how their score streaks and stuff. Or I think there's score streaks in there. Yeah, instead of kill
Yes.
streaks. Like I liked it. It was fun. It was fast. I always loved playing domination. But man, they were very big on showing off their was it Omni movement, I think is what they're
Omni
calling it.
movement.
Because everything
Yes.
adds Omni to it now. Um, it's cool, and I see like you can dive backwards and then like land on your back like shooting, and like
Yes.
you can dive sideways. Like you are constantly sprinting based, like you were just sprinting the whole time. There's no walking
Yeah,
anywhere. You're
sure.
just sprinting and diving and flying
Well, I
around,
think that's
and you,
cool. At least they're
which is no,
changing it up.
they are, but I feel like it is so fast. Like Call of Duty is always fast. Like it has a high
Hmm.
time or a low time to kill, and it is
Yes.
very twitchy. And usually, whoever gets the first shot off wins. But
Oh
like
yeah, almost always.
this one is just like I feel like it's amped up more than that, and it's not. I think it makes it. It felt like the balance was not there where it used to be in the old Call of Duties, and
That's unfortunate.
yeah, like while the movement system is cool, I don't know, like I feel like it just did not feel fun to play. Like it didn't like Call of Duty. Usually, you die a lot, so you're just constantly respawning in most of the modes, and like that's part of it. It's COD, so you get your kills, you set off, whatever you call an attack helicopter, whatever you want to do, and then
Yeah.
you end up dying and rinse and repeat. It is fun. Like I like that sometimes. Like that's a nice thing. But this one, it just felt very off. It felt like you were. I don't know. I always felt at a disadvantage because everyone was diving everywhere. Like
it feels
it was just
very.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't play this one, but I feel like they're trying to move more and more into this esports direction of very, very high skill ceiling.
Yeah, and
gameplay,
a lot of people were
where,
complaining about that because of the skill-based matchmaking. So
yes.
there'll be probably
Okay,
plenty
so
of
that's
people
interesting.
saying, yes.
That's interesting. I like COD for, believe it or not, its campaign.
Yeah.
But I
love
know. I don't play a lot of COD.
campaigns.
I'm not that into it.
And
It's actually one of those franchises though that I've considered going back and just I'm going to play every single one.
Yeah.
And I have not committed to that because there are so many of those things.
Many. There are so many, but like,
and admittedly they are very short.
Yeah. No, they're 6-hour campaigns or less sometimes.
Yes.
Yeah, but so Black Ops 6 coming out October 25th. It's available on Game Pass of all places, which was kind of surprising. So I may try it, but I am also very cautious about it because of how it just did not feel good playing it. I don't know, compared to the older Black Ops games. So I'm not going to say I'm optimistic about it because I've fallen off of the other games. I mean, I did play Cold War. I guess I played Cold War for a bit, and that was also I think a Treyarch developed one. So, that one was pretty fun. But I don't know. It's on my radar to watch and see. If the campaign is really cool, I'll jump on and play the campaign for a nice little action-packed couple-hour romp. So, yeah.
Okay, well, I have a couple games that I wanted to bring up.
Yeah, sure.
And the first one is Horizon Zero Dawn Remastered. I mean, what are they? Why? Are you serious? How long ago did the PC port of that game
launch? 2020? When did it come out? It was pretty recently.
Yeah, it was not long ago. And it's like, why are we getting another release on PC so quickly? This is so dumb.
And if you try to buy the one that came out a couple years ago, they upped the price.
They boosted the price.
And you can only buy the remastered. Same thing on PlayStation Network. It was a $19 greatest hits game, and now it is, I believe, 50 or 40 or 50 on the store, and it is crazy. I don't know. Like, that is super anti-consumer, since we were talking about anti-consumer stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's just like we're trying to force you to have a reason to buy this new version.
Yeah.
And there isn't a reason. Look at the comparisons. Look at the comparisons. There's no difference. I mean, there is a difference, but it's like
lighting.
It's like a reshade. It's like, dude, this is like a mod that you get on Nexus.
Right.
This is stupid.
And I can't believe it because, of all things, when PlayStation 5 launched, they patched the PS4 version to have better, it has 60 FPS.
So it's kind of already had a remaster.
Yeah, it already they patched it, and it already looks and plays great.
I don't understand Sony's insistence on pushing Horizon so hard. It's obvious that people are not that into it.
Yeah, but they want people really badly to be in it because they have invested. I don't know if you've heard. There is a Horizon online game that has been in the works for years at Guerrilla. The original developers. Yes, and it is something that they are putting a lot of eggs in their basket, similar to Concord, that they're like, this is the thing. This is going to be one of our, always online, money makers. And they have also been pushing Horizon into, I don't know if it's Sony Studio, if they went through Sony, but they're trying to get a movie made or a series. So it is something that they want to keep going after.
Yeah,
so
I just okay,
yeah,
whatever. Sony,
it's
do
something.
Your thing.
I don't know.
Okay,
man.
And so we got to wrap up here pretty quick.
Yeah,
so
sure.
I'll just mention the other one. The other one is Metro Awakening. the VR title for
okay.
Metro.
I was going to ask. Yeah.
It is so weird. I was talking to a friend of ours the other day about this, and he was like, it's supposed to run natively on the Quest 2.
On the Quest 2, really?
On the Quest 2. And I thought,
wow.
I mean, that's kind of cool that they make it available like that. But I hope that it has a much higher performance mode for PC. Because that franchise definitely, graphical fidelity is a big thing in that franchise.
Yeah.
So I think they need to make sure that it looks really good. And from what I've seen, it looks like it does.
Yeah.
My guess is, and this is another thing that we talked about. He said that he watched the ad for it on Quest 3 and that it looked really good. And I was like, well, that's probably just a recording from the PC
from
version.
the PC,
because they aren't going to show off the lesser version.
Yeah.
So anyway, but I'm excited about it. I won't get it right away, but I think it's pretty cool. I've played 2 of the other Metro games, and I should be playing the other one within the next few months. Exodus. Haven't played that one yet.
No, I'd like to go back and play those, or at least the remastered versions.
Yeah, Redux.
Redux.
Pretty good. Right. I mean, it's pretty enjoyable.
Cool.
Getting the good ending on that game though is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Just go look it up. I won't talk about it.
I think one of our friends played the original and he was telling me about it. So he was mad
because he was like, he didn't know until towards the end. And then he was like, that's dumb. Why would you have to
do all
why would it require that?
Yeah.
Seems contrary to the way they want you to play the game.
Yeah. Well, it'll be cool to see how it performs on the Quest. So
yeah. Anywho, well, thank you. If you've made it this far, we really appreciate you sticking with us this whole time. We will have another episode coming out in the next couple of weeks, and we hope to see you there. If you enjoyed this show, please like, subscribe, and especially comment.
Over and out.